Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A question from one of the sisters in our class. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. First, I want to say barakallahu feek for your help. May Allah increase your iman and give you taqwa. Sheikh, when I got married, I was wearing khimar. Then my husband made some research and told me that I have to wear niqab. So I started wearing it because I have to be obedient to my husband. Then it wasn't easy. I faced difficulties in breathing and headaches and dizziness anytime I wear it. I even passed out. But I was trying to be patient because I know that's my husband's wants. And I tried to find other ways to make it easy. I cut some, it says here, I cut some of the length of the niqab. I tried thinner, but still anytime I go outside, the same discomfort. Last thing I tried was wearing big scarf and put some of it over my face. And when I can't breathe, I removed it, but not all the way, just from over my nose. Then my husband complained when I do that and say your whole nose is out. And it was me and him who came to this solution. I couldn't handle him complaining every time my nose is out, so I just can't breathe. So I can breathe. So I told him I'm not going outside anymore, only if it's an emergency visit to the doctor. La samahallah. He didn't like my decision and he said, I'm taking it to the extreme. Only Allah knows how much I suffer and how much I try to be patient. But this time, she says, I felt like I can't handle it anymore. Sorry if it's long, I try to summarize as much as I can. And if you think me and my husband meet to talk to you in person, we would love that. Jazakallahu khairan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you for your kind words and for your dua. And I mean to that as well. As far as the long question and the concern and the issue, we basically have a woman who wears hijab without covering her face. She got married to a man who did some research, who read some things, hadith, fatwa, ayah. He read something, she read something. And he came to the conclusion that covering the face is mandatory. She must cover the face. She must wear the niqab. So therefore, he instructs her to wear the niqab. She tries to be obedient by wearing the niqab. Then she faces major difficulties, headaches, dizziness, passing out, so on and so forth. The next step is that the wife and the husband try to meet in the middle. Not totally taking off the niqab, thinning the niqab, taking out the nose, and the list goes on. But the sister says that she still suffers from the same suffering or from the same pain and from the same agony, the same health difficulties, and the list goes on. So the final determination or the final solution of the sister was not to go outside unless it is a medical emergency. A medical emergency, I have to go to the emergency room, to the doctors, the last time of Allah. May Allah protect her, that's what she's saying. May Allah not allow that to happen, etc. Now the husband says that this is an extreme, so what to do, etc. To keep things simple, to keep things brief, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, if a husband feels that his wife must cover her face, which is the view of many of the people of knowledge, of the past and of the present, many of the ulama of Islam, of the past and of the present, who hold it that it's mandatory, it's obligatory, it's fard, for a woman who's of age to cover her face and to cover her hands from non-mahram men. And as we have stated several times in many videos and many classes, when you say that you have to cover the face, you also must cover the hands. It's not just the niqab with the hands out, as many sisters do. The ulama of Islam, they say that the entire woman is awrah, everything. Everything is awrah, and it must be covered from a non-mahram man, including the hands, not just the face. And the other view of those ulama, or those who say that the entire woman is awrah, ma khala al-wajh wal-kaffayn, except for the hands in the awrah. There is no cover the face, leave the hands open, with regards to the two views. As far as if a sister feels or if a brother feels that it's not mandatory, and he says, but it's preferable, I want you to cover your face. I don't want no one to see how beautiful you are. I don't want the brothers at the masjid to see what you look like, but your hands can still be out. Then that's one thing. But the actual mas'ala fiqhiyya, The legal ruling is that it's one of the two. There's nothing in the middle. Either everything is awrah, or the hands and the face are excluded from the awrah, with exceptions to the eyes, one eye, screen, etc. And this is, we say, a very important point, tanbihun muhim, because many people, they don't know about this, and they mix and they confuse things, just like any other issue of fiqh. So therefore, covering the hands is just like covering the face. If it's mandatory to cover the face, then it's also mandatory to do what? Cover the hands. There's no in between, because the face is awrah and the hands are also awrah, according to that view. And the other view are those ulama who say that everything is awrah on the woman except for the hands and the face. And it's permissible for non-mahram men to see the face of a grown woman and to see her hands, as long as they're not looking towards her with lustful intentions, as long as she doesn't wear makeup and doesn't add or enhance her beauty outside of the house, as long as she doesn't live in a sexually perverted place and location, and as long as her uncovering her hands and her face isn't a major means of infatuation, in which this woman is considered to be gawking or gorgeously beautiful, in which it causes a fitna for her or fitna for others. That's a summary of the issue. We're not here to discuss the adillah, the proofs and evidences of those who say that it is or it isn't mandatory. What's important is that when we answer a question, we have tasawwur, jayyid, clear conceptualization of the issue at hand. So therefore, the husband, his madhab is that it's mandatory. The sister, her madhab is not necessarily that it's mandatory, but she's trying to obey her husband. So may Allah reward her well for that. We say to keep things brief, if the sister gives an earnest effort, if she honestly tries to obey her husband, to wear the niqab, to cover herself in a more thorough manner, and then she finds that it's not just a little bit difficult, but very difficult, in which she passes out, in which she feels that she cannot breathe, so on and so forth every single time, then there lies no doubt the husband, he should try his best to make things easy for the wife. He should try his best to make things easy for the wife. The rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the slave becomes exempt from them when he or she doesn't have the physical capability. Ma amartukum bihi. The Prophet says, that which I tell you to do, fatu minhu mastata'tum. He says, do that which you have the ability to do. So these are the rights of Allah, the rights of His Messenger. The slave is not required to do them when he or she lacks the physical capability, even if the niyyah is there. But I just can't do it. I cannot stand up. I cannot travel. I cannot fast. I cannot do certain acts, even though Allah told me, the Messenger told me to do it. So this is the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah forgives and He pardons the slave when they make mistakes, when they fall short because they don't have the physical capability. Then how about the haqq of the husband? So if the sister put on the niqab in the beginning, and it was a little difficult, and we say be patient, you have to sacrifice, try it out, it'll become, inshallah, you'll get used to it. Many things are difficult. When brother first does this, when it's, okay, that's one thing. But the sister says that she continually did it. She passed out. She became very dizzy. She couldn't breathe. Then there lies no doubt the husband, he should take in consideration the well-being of his wife, and also he should take in consideration the feelings of his wife, whereas she tried to obey him. She tried to take it to the next level that she didn't necessarily believe was mandatory and obligatory. So therefore, the general maxim from the major legal maxims is إِنَّ الْمَشَقَّةَ تَجْلِبُ التَّيْسِيرِ, is that difficulty, hardship necessitates ease. It's a must when there's something that's too hard that we make it easy. So therefore, the husband, he should try to figure out some type of way, whether he allows her to uncover her face, cover her face certain times, or just say until you get better, until you get strong enough, then inshallah you don't have to cover your face and hands when you're outside of the house. As far as making it mandatory upon her and she's going to be harmed, then no. La darara wa la dirar. One of the major legal maxims in the deen of Islam as well. One of the major fiqh principles, la darara wa la dirar. There should be no harm. There should be no harm. Literal translation. And the ulama of Islam, they differ over what's meant by this. La darar wa la dirar. Some say la darara bil qawl, la dirara bil fi'l. There shouldn't be any harm in statement nor any harm in action. Some say la darar ibtida'an wa la dirara i'tida'an wa raddan intiqaman. There should be no harm initially, nor should there be harm based off of retribution, seeking revenge. And other interpretations of that qa'idah let alone the hadith that is mentioned from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if she can't breathe, she's going to pass out, then that's obviously harmful, and she shouldn't do that. The husband should be understanding. He should be patient. Now, the sister, she says, I put out my nose, or I make a thinner khimar, and that still doesn't work. And then the sister says that I won't go outside of the house unless it's a medical emergency. And the husband says that's an extreme. Now, the next question is, so what is the sister to do? You want her to wear the niqab. She's going to pass out, fall out. She can't breathe. She says, I'm not going to go outside the house unless it's a medical emergency. She's still trying to respect the husband's rights, the husband's wishes, and trying to be obedient. So the husband, he realized, no doubt, based off of what's mentioned here, he has to try somehow, some way to help her out into ta'awunu ala al-birri wa taqwa. Is to help each other upon righteousness, upon piety. So that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line, okay? Yani, the woman's health takes precedence over the covering of the hands and the face. Takes precedence over the husband's ghayra, his jealousy, and his envy for his wife and her looks outside in public. That's the bottom line. If the sister can stay in the house and don't leave the house unless it's a necessity, then that's one thing. And that's the asl. وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَا تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. Allah says, and stay in your homes, chapter 33, and do not unveil yourselves. Do not display yourselves like that of jahiliyyah, of the pre-Islamic state of stupidity and of ignorance. وَأَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةَ. Allah says, establish the salah, give the zakat, obey Allah and obey His messenger. So therefore, a woman staying in the house and not leaving unless it's a need or a necessity, something that's important, that's the asl. As Aisha radiallahu ta'ala narrated, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's adhina lakunna, He says He has allowed you to leave your homes lil haja, for need, for necessity. That's a long lecture in itself. The concept of a woman excessively, overabundantly leaving the house, let alone leaving the house without the proper hijab, without the proper attire, without the proper adab, the proper akhlaq, and traveling. And the list goes on of how many of us, unfortunately, become very far from the basic teachings of the Prophet ﷺ regarding his wives. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Allah knows best. You have questions online?
Yeah. Online. There was a question actually. It was me. I actually posted. I like to know daily routine of your, like, how do you study? Like, do you have as for you, Mufti, like you have 1 hour that you dedicate every day for Quran, and then 5 hours for reading the fatwa of other scholars, and 2 hours of reading hadith? I mean, I know your schedule is busy, but I'm sure you have some sort of a study pattern for yourself as well. So, I mean, do you think that would be a good idea for you to...
Try, khair, inshallah. Question is about my study habits. Inshallah, I'll try to answer the question, and some of the question I won't be able to answer for a few reasons. Some of those reasons are is that there are people that are much better than me, who have far better study habits than I do, and have far stronger training regimens than me. People who run more miles than me, who jump rope more, who on the heavy bag, the speed bag, who watch more boxing tape than I do. Much better boxers than me. However, inshallah, perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put some type of good in me mentioning some of my humble study habits, so on and so forth. The next point is why I won't be able to answer the question in full detail is I want to give you some of the or time schedule in Medina, or when I was in Yemen instead of in America. Not saying that I don't study in America. Of course, I still study in America. I studied before I went overseas in America, but I think that may be even better because it was more structure. At the end of the day, it's different ways of starting off. You can talk about the day, you can talk about the night, you can talk about night prayer or whatever. Let's just keep it basic and start off with Salat al-Fajr. With Salat al-Fajr. Now, most Tulab al-Ilm, when they get up for Fajr, whether they slept from Isha to Fajr, whether they prayed at night, made the Qiyam and Witr, made Dua, etc. Or even some students of knowledge, such as myself, when I was overseas, I would often be afflicted with insomnia. And we know insomnia is not just lack of sleep, but it's lack of quality sleep. Many people think insomnia is that you can't sleep at night. You may sleep for 8 hours and wake up and still feel fatigued and tired. So the first time I went overseas in Medina when I was 18, I was afflicted by insomnia. And oftentimes I couldn't sleep at nighttime at all, let alone that was the type of insomnia I had then. Later on, it became a different type of insomnia with lack of quality sleep. So when I first got to Medina, I couldn't sleep at night. So that's one thing. But the average talib al-ilm is going to sleep at nighttime, make the prayer at nighttime, go back to sleep for an hour or a couple of hours, and wake up for Salat al-Fajr fresh. So in Medina, let's say, for example, you wake up for Salat al-Fajr. Okay, you get up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you make your wudu, you make your 2 raka'ah in your apartment, your house, in the dorm, wherever you live, and you walk to the masjid. So my first year in Medina, I was living in building number 3 for a couple of months. It was an older building. So it was a good maybe, let's say, 6 or 7 minute walk from the building to the masjid. So I would utilize that time to read. And obviously it was dark in Medina. There wasn't that many lights. This was before the age of the iPad. I didn't have no iPad. iPad wasn't really popular like that, if it was even out. So we always had books. So I would start my day by reading a book. In most cases, Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, obviously in Arabic, walking from my dorm to the masjid. So that in itself is a type of training right there in my book, okay? And that is to maximize the time when you're not supposed to be studying, which the average person just walking, the average person is driving, the average person is sitting and eating, in which me, what I learned, what I had studied, what I had read, and what I had implemented myself was to always have a book with you. So instead of the 6 minutes just walking, you get 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes of reading. You might be memorize 3 hadith in 10 minutes. You may read 20 hadiths in 10 minutes, depending on how fast you read, how long the hadiths are. And keep in mind that it's dark. So you're training your eyes to read the paper when it's not light outside. So if you can read proficiently, especially from an older print, not a print like this, which is new with all of the vowels, but an older print. If you can read an older book, walking in the dark to a destination, then obviously when you sit down with a newer print with the lights on, you're going to cut like a knife through cheese. So that's the concept in itself, is to study in times of difficulty to make it easier to study in times of ease. Just like a boxer, as we always say. He runs and he trains with sandbags or with heavy books in his book bag. Or he runs up and down the steps with heavy logs. In other words, if you can run quickly, swiftly, with weight on you, then when you're in the ring moving, your footwork is going to be what? Even more rapid. All right, so that's one of the things that I used to do. And it was something I would advise Talab al-Ilm to do as well. When you get a chance, read when it's not time to read. People are laughing, joking, eating, have your book with you. They're driving in a car, listen to your lecture, listen to a tape. Back in the tape days, before CDs, before MP3s, Apple, and it was tapes, cassettes. Okay, you literally take a pencil in or tape it back. If your tape gets ripped, there's some tapes you don't have in the store anymore. Okay, in Medina, it was tape stores. I asked the brothers over there, it was tape stores. You go and buy cassettes. You buy a big set of cassettes. There's no download. It was none of that. So you buy cassettes. So that's what I would used to do. So you walk to the masjid. You get to the masjid. If you get there before the iqamah, you can make another extra 2 rak'ah, sit down, review Quran, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If you haven't memorized the Quran yet, memorize something from the Quran. Wait for the iqamah, make the salah. You sit, you make your adhkar. Then your day, the average student's day would begin. But my day had already begun. As I said, walking to the masjid had already begun. Okay? So most of the brothers, that's when they would review their Quran. And those who already had memorized the Quran or who hadn't yet memorized the Quran, they would actually make hifd. They would make hifd of the Quran in the masjid, the big, large masjid in Medina, Masjid Ibn Baz. So what I would do after Salat al-Fajr, I would meet with some of my classmates. Specifically, it was one brother, a good friend of mine, he was from Egypt. And we would review, we would memorize everything that we had to do basically for the week. Okay, we would start off and try to do it in one day for the classes. We have Tawheed, we have Sirah, we have Muharrar, we have Fiqh. Whatever subject that you had, we would test each other. Read from the book, close the book, you say it, you spit it back, faster, quicker, just like that. Then afterwards, depending if it's wintertime or the summertime. Obviously, the wintertime is more time between Fajr and it's less time between Fajr and going to school. All right, maybe get something to eat, a light meal, not a heavy meal, whether it's bread and honey. Many of the brothers would eat, whether it was full, mashed up fava beans with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of feta cheese. That's if you're fortunate to have that. If not, it's just beans and bread. Maybe some yogurt and some bread. You sit and you eat 15, 20 minutes with the book on the side of you. So as you dip your bread in the yogurt or you dip your bread in the beans, you're reading, you're studying, you're reviewing. Other students, like I said, they may be laughing and joking. Some of them may be talking about soccer or talking about money or talking about getting married in their country, talking about Sheikh Fulan and this one and that one. Allah Alam, what are they talking about? We would have the book or we would actually debate while eating breakfast. So after that, you still got your book with you. You're reading. You walk back to your dorm. You get your stuff and you head to school. Get to school, b'idhnillahi ta'ala, let's say maybe 15 minutes early, 20 minutes early before the class starts. Once again, you're reading your books. Let's say, for example, you're reading Fatawa, Mathalan, Fatawa Ibn Uthaymeen, or Fath al-Bari, whatever you're reading before the class starts, before the teacher comes into the class. And then you can pick your own good seat. Obviously, when the class starts, all of your attention is spent on the teacher. Take notes, write down everything that the teacher says. Or if not, summarize the class. Or if not, sometimes we would just memorize it. Memorize the class. Khair, inshallah. So the next teacher, the first teacher, he leaves, next teacher comes in. You got another 5 more minutes, go back to reading. Go back to studying. Then the next teacher comes in until you have all of your subjects. You study basically from about 7:30 a.m. to about maybe 1:30 p.m., 1 o'clock p.m., 12:30 p.m., etc. So you make Salat al-Dhuhr in the school masjid and the kulliyah, the musalla. Then you go home, living on a dorm. Once again, you're reading a book. And then it's sunny outside. It's blazing hot outside. Walking, reading a book. Or maybe cloudy, maybe rainy in Medina. You still what? Reading a book. Walking back to your dorm. Then it's time to eat lunch. Go to the lunchroom, the cafeteria. They have the meal tickets. While you're waiting in line, because hundreds of students to get the food, you're reading a sporadic book. Nothing to do with school. And it's a very important point that I would do and tell the brothers and sisters now is when you're cheating with your study time, make sure it's outside of your responsibilities. In other words, when it's time to study for school, you study for school. But when you're walking, driving, eating, you give the other fawaid, the other benefits, things that have nothing to do with school. You see what I'm saying? That's how you really enhance your ilm now. So you get a little quick lunch, go back to your dorm. Some brothers will take a nap for an hour, 30 minutes. Some brothers will stay up. And now you're just getting yourself ready to go to the Prophet's masjid. Many of the brothers will go by cab. Some would walk. Some will go by the school bus from the Jami'ah to the Prophet's masjid every day. So between Dhuhr and Asr, you said Salat al-Dhuhr, you have your lunch, maybe a nap, and if not, reading some more books, reading tafsir, reading, studying more. Then after Asr time, you go to the Prophet's masjid, sit in the Prophet's masjid from Asr to Maghrib, and that time was spent on memorization, on actual hifd. Okay? And what I would do myself, when I was in the Prophet's masjid from Asr to Maghrib, pretty much every day, we memorize a hadith. Memorize a hadith. A hadith for school and hadith for other than school. So some brothers would sit in the corner. Some brothers, this is what they would do in Yemen. Some brothers would walk back and forth, take the book, walk from one end to the Prophet's masjid to the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Close the book. Back and forth, back and forth. Okay? Sometimes you just sit down, depending on what type of mood you're in, depending on what's efficient for you. From Maghrib, or from Asr to Maghrib, you spend memorizing, myself. As for Maghrib and Isha, then that's when you had the main halaqah, the main dars with the mashayikh and the ulama of Medina, whoever you're sitting with in the Prophet ﷺ's masjid, with Sheikh Ali Nasr Faqihi, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, whoever is teaching in the Prophet's masjid that you choose to sit with. There are maybe like 10 classes going on at once in different sections of the haram of the Prophet's masjid. So, let's say, for example, I'm sitting with Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad. He's making a sharh of Kutub al-Sitta, whether it's Bukhari, whether it's Muslim, Sunan Ibn Majah, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, whatever book he's working on. So he has his reader, and there's hundreds of students there. What many of the students would do, they would put a spot to get in the halaqah before the actual halaqah. So many of them, they would go after Asr, and they would take the little wooden Quran stands, the Mus'haf beds, put their book in it, and save their spot. So sometimes I would do that, or sometimes I would take the books that I have with me and you put them down on the ground to get a good spot. So right after Salat al-Maghrib, you make your adhkar really quick, and you run to the majlis. And depending on how early you got there, will be depending on what type of seat you would have. And alhamdulillah, there were times in which I was directly under the sheikh's chair, okay? Where you like literally staring at his toes, okay? Other times you may have 2 or 3 people ahead of you. The closer you are, the easier it is to hear, the less distraction, the less crowd, easier it is to take notes, and you can also send your question up quicker. And you can make sure that your question gets posed to the sheikh. So that's from Maghrib to Isha. Obviously, these classes in the Prophet's Masjid are not interactive. Okay, he has the reader, the sheikh makes the sharh. After or towards the end of the class, before the adhan for Salat al-Isha, is the Q&A time. They will pose all the different questions to the sheikh. So then it's the Iqamah for Salat al-Isha. So some students, they would swarm around the sheikh and listen to him answer further questions after Salat al-Isha. Some students would begin walking to the buses back to the university, the buses that take you back to the school. In my first year of school, it was me and my friend from Egypt, once again, Sheikh Ahmed Salama. He's doing his PhD right now in Medina. We would go back to memorizing once again. And we would test each other once again. Narrate the chain, the hadith. Say it again. That's wrong. That's right. What's this mean? Just like that. Sparring. Fighting on the way from the Prophet's Masjid back to the bus. Obviously, you had to wait for the bus. It was hundreds of students. The bus would be 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late. Then there was more time to spar, more time to memorize, to quote, to debate with your classmates. And like I said before, other students, they may just be sitting, they may be talking, they may be laughing, some may be reading. Me, alhamdulillah, what I tried to do, I was always trying to train, okay? And this is one brother in my class I said from Egypt, Brother Ahmed. So then the bus comes, and it's basically you got to fight your way onto the bus, literally. You literally have to elbow your way onto the bus to get a seat because it's that crowded. So, you know, me and Ahmed, we will remain calm with just a couple of elbows or whatever. You get on the bus, brothers sit in, talking, thinking about what they're going to eat for dinner, and we were going back to Muharrar, back to Hadith. Qala ibn Abdul Hadi, wa akhraju, just like that, back and forth on the way back to the Jamia. Then it's time to eat. You can go back to the cafeteria. You can go out to another restaurant. Or like I said, if you wanted to, you can make a humble meal for yourself and get bread and yogurt. And suffice yourself with that. Because the less money you have to spend on food, the more money you have to spend on books. The less times you go to the restaurant, the more times you have to sit and study what you're trying to study. So basically, then maybe like say, for example, after you eat dinner, you have all your homework prepared for the next day. Then it's like free reading time. You want to read some other things, miscellaneous stuff, tafsir al-Tabari, kutab al-Rijal, kutab al-Shuruh, whatever you're into, whatever you like to read. And I would have my book light. And when it's time to go to sleep, instead of going directly to sleep, I'll read for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, wa alaikum salam, maybe even an hour before sleep when the other brothers are sleeping. All right? And that was pretty much the daily routine for the first 3 months of the College of Hadith when I was living on campus. As far as the weekends, and obviously you didn't have to go to school. Some brothers would go to sleep after Fajr. I would try to stay up. And, you know, you just, maybe you might be translating a book, translating some books, increasing, sharpening your skills, practicing on your hand speed, and just, you know, studying and learning more. You may go outside the Prophet's Masjid to some other houses of other mashayikh and visit them, ask them questions. You may go to the Prophet's Masjid, the library there, sitting there all day. Whatever you have the ability or the time to do. So that's how I used to do it when I was living on campus. As far as when I moved off campus, then it was a bit different. It was a bit different. And many people, they may say, if you live off if you move from campus, then you're going to become more distracted. But to me, it was more of an intensification. Because if I have my own apartment, then I can do everything how I want to do it. If you're living in a dorm, you have maybe 4 brothers in one room, 3 people in one room. And it's boxed off like a cubicle or something. So you may be listening to the Quran, he may be watching a movie. Or you may be trying to study, his friends may overcome and laugh and joke and eat food. Or you may be trying to take a nap or trying to cook, and you have a classmate from West Africa or from Indonesia or Malaysia, and he's making some type of food, cooking rice, spicy food, all type of exotic smells, literally. Cooking fish in a small room. So you may not necessarily be able to sleep or study. So when you have your own apartment, you can do whatever you want to do. So if you're making some food yourself, if you're sleeping, whatever you're doing, you always have the tape recorder. Play the Quran al-Kareem. Listen to the radio program from Saudi, Nurun ala Darb, the Fatawa. Listen to the Durus, all the tapes that you have. So no matter what you're doing, the tape player is always playing. You're washing your clothes, the tape player is playing. You using the bathroom, you're washing up, brushing your teeth, the tape player is playing. Outside of the bathroom. As we read some of the athar of the people of Hadith, that one of Hadith, his son would read to him when he was using the bathroom. And we tried to be like them. We tried our best to imitate them. So you could always listen to something, no matter what chores that you had to do. If you were there, if you were single, or if your wife wasn't there at the time, you could always benefit. And it was time to go to the Prophet's masjid. Obviously, the apartment is further, or you don't have a free ride every day. You walk, put on your headphones with your tape player, and, read the book while you're walking, and just continually be in a state of fa'idah, always trying to benefit, especially if you were by yourself. As far as if you have other brothers, other American brothers or British brothers with you, then the only people that can hang out with me, initially, people that was about fa'idah. Some brothers, like I said, they want to go to Pizza Hut, they want to go to Burger King, they want to go to McDonald's, they want to go here, they want to buy this, they want to, play basketball, football, go shopping, go to Jeddah, go swimming, go to Yambut. I wasn't pretty much into that kind of stuff. Some brothers, like I said, they just want to sit around and talk about people all day. I wasn't into that. I was about, studying. And that's basically a summary of it. This is my first year of school. As far as when I went to Medina, before I was in school, when I actually was 18, then it was different. We spoke about that already. Staying up at night, transcribing tapes, memorizing, going to the school in the morning. So that's basic, pretty much whatever you do. Now, if you got your wife there, if you have your kids with you, then you go to the hospital for your wife's checkup. She's pregnant. You may be sitting in the hospital for 5 hours, 4 hours, sitting and waiting. It's a crowd. So many brothers, they would go with their wives and they would just sit there. I would go and I would have a book with me. So for 3 hours waiting for the doctor, I've read an entire volume, or 300 pages, 200 pages, whatever you're reading, okay? Just like that. You get in a cab, we have your own car, read, study, listen. And that was the general concept, that whenever you're in overseas in Medina, you always have a book with you, always. Never be caught without a book. And that's how the true tulab al-ilm that I met and encountered were. All right? And you read some of the biographies of the Salaf al-Salih, and they would say that he never saw Fulan unless he had a book in his hand. All right? So these are some things that we try to implement. And Allahu Alam, I would say perhaps these were some of the things that may have given me the edge. All right? Allahu Alam. And that's basically it. As far as when it comes time for the tests, the exams, then obviously you try your best to study all year round. But basically, before the exams, they give you a week off to review, and they call it usbu' mayyit. That's what the students used to call it. They used to call it the dead week. All right? In other words, there's no classes, and it's just the students that didn't study, this was time to crash. And the students that did study, this was time to really further hone your blade and make it razor sharp. So basically, when you had a week before the exams, if you were married, it was known, you would basically make i'tikaf in your library. No kids, no wife, nothing. They would only see you maybe for a couple hours out at nighttime. Other than that, you spend time in the library. And it was known, anybody with anything, it has to be an emergency. Don't come knocking on the door, don't come begging, Abby, pick me up. It was none of that. You're just studying for a week straight, trying to make sure that you're going to the exam and inshallah do the best that you can. Reviewing, studying, summarizing, meeting with the other students, so on and so forth. And like I said, good students that were good, they got even better. Bad students, like myself, they got at least good and try to crash before you can take the exam. Taking exams is a major part of the College of Hadith, major part of Jamia Islamiyah, and it's a bit different than the exams in the West. A lot of it is based off of what you memorize. And alhamdulillah, I was fortunate enough to have very, very, very good teachers from day one, and I was also fortunate enough to have many strict teachers. And one of them was a doctor named Sheikh Saud al-Jarbu'i, hafidhullah. He taught me fiqh al-hadith, muharrar, alhamdulillah, 4 times. And that's rare that you have one teacher to teach you the same subject 4 different semesters. And it wasn't concurrent. It was a semester here, then another teacher. So I got a chance to come back, go, come back. And to me, this teacher, I don't think he was the hardest teacher or the most strict teacher, but he was definitely number 2 or number 3, easily in the top 3. You can ask other students, anybody who's been in Kulliyat al-Hadith, okay, before me, my time, similar time, you ask them, they'll remember, they'll know his name. They may tremble when you mention his name. He was known to be very, very, very cruel when it came to the exams. And, some students, I saw them walk out the room and make dua against them, literally. Make dua against them. Some students, they will leave the room, their hand will be like this, because they wrote so much, their hand will be like numb, okay? And he would, ask you, write it down, explain, what's the proof, what's the dalil, who narrated, what do the Shafi'i say, what the Hanif, da-da-da-da-da-da. So you got to know all of that stuff in your head. So you complain in the beginning, but as time goes on, you begin to appreciate it, and you see what he turned the students into. And if you ask me, Allah Alam, I think that this sheikh, one of the reasons why he was so harsh and he was so severe, so strict, is that he was jealous and he was upset at what the Islamic University had become and what this College of Hadith had become. He was like stuck in the past, the old school hardcore students. And he was upset that the grade of the students had become so low and became so poor. And I'm sure in his time, when he was early on teaching, let alone when he was a student, when somebody graduated from the College of Hadith, they were a scholar. They were a sheikh, alim, and they had the greatest respect. And the College of Hadith was the most difficult college in the Islamic University of Medina. And the reputation preceded it for miles. So when he saw certain students come that were weak, that could barely speak Arabic, that had 1 foot in the deen, 1 foot in the dunya, that could barely memorize anything, that didn't read Sahih Bukhari 10 times, 15 times, students had poor study habits, I'm sure he became upset. And he wanted to restore the old reputation of the College of Hadith. So this sheikh, I benefited from him tremendously. And I would say he probably had the biggest influence on me of all of the teachers in the school. I think he had the biggest influence on me on all of the teachers in the school. How he taught, how he interacted, how much he memorized, and just how much he made you work for your grade. No one got an A easily or simply. All right, if you got a B in his class, you were happy. Okay, and there were other teachers as well, whose names we won't mention. Some of them said, or one of them, he said, Ana sirat Kulliyat Hadith. He says, I'm the sirat, the bridge over the hellfire to Jannah in College of Hadith. He said, nobody passes me to the next year unless they go through me. And the good students, the really good students, my classmates, if they got a C or B, if they got a B in his class, they were happy. That was like alhamdulillah, and many students failed that had good grades, but he would give them an F if it wasn't how he wanted it to be. Some students, they complained, go to the principal, the president, and it was of no benefit. All right. And this sheikh, he was hardcore. All right. I had one student, he was from Uganda, he's originally from Somalia. He messed up his grades. He was about to graduate. He had like straight A's. He got him, took down his GPA. Just about to cry. What can you do? But I'm sure that now that classmate probably appreciates some of that honor, training, and a teacher actually taking the time, taking the effort to actually produce tulab al-ilm, actually produce mashayikh, people that actually have the real passion and thirst and taste for hadith and for its sciences. So that's brief. Obviously, there are other times, other countries that I went to, other things. That's more than enough for now. If you get a chance, inshallah ta'ala, my advice would to go meet some of the other tulab al-ilm, some of the other brothers who graduated from hadith, the real students of knowledge, brothers that were really studying besides me, and ask them how they studied and what were their habits, what was their schedule, what foods did they eat, what drinks did they drink, so on and so forth. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Abu Tayyid.
I was reading about hadithdisciple, and I read about naqs and kind of sort of guidance, but when I'm in the salah and sometimes I make a mistake, I find it very hard to very difficult to see if I added or should I subtract it, and what should I do, and was it a wajib, was it a sunnah that I missed? I find it very difficult to implement what I read when I'm making salah and I make a mistake. So I was wondering if there was an easier way to
Clear. Ty. The question is about sujood al-sahu. Is there an easier way of doing it, learning it, applying it, etc.? I would say, first and foremost is with regards to it being easy, is to learn the basic principles first. Basic principles. And then an example of a basic principle of sujood al-sahw is, when do you have to do it before the salam, and when do you have to do it after the salam? There is no ijma' in this issue. There's no consensus. And there are over 8 opinions of the ulama regarding when you should make the prostration. So there are 8 opinions on it, and there's a great long amount of differing. Then the first simple principle to learn is that whether I do it before or after, the most important thing is 2 things. Number 1 is that you fix your salah. If you did something less, you do it before the end of the salah. If you remember that you did something extra, you immediately stop and finish the salah as if nothing happened. So the first thing is that you have to fix the salah. Number 2 is that you make the salah and you make 2 prostrations, before or after the taslim, as long as you cover yourself. Fix the mistake and make sure that you make the 2. Before, after, that comes when you have the proper knowledge and the proper opinion. What you study, what you read proves, someone could say hypothetically, I made ziyada, so I'm going to make the sujood after the taslim. I made naqs, I omitted, I took something from my prayer and I fixed it, so I'm going to make the sujood before the taslim. But me, I understand that. It's difficult. Hadith here, Abu Hanifa, fulan. So the first general principle is to cover myself. And that is to make sure that I fix the salah and that I make sujood al-sahw. Before or after. No matter what I do, one of the 2 is going to fall under one of the madhahib of the ulama. Everybody understand this? One of the madhahib of the ulama. So that's the first general principle to make things easy. Secondly is to study sujood al-sahw in one manner, one way. So, for an example, let's say you take the book of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. It's a small, simple book in Arabic and in English. It's been translated years ago. It's available in Arabic. Read that book. Study that book 5 times. And try your best to implement it as much as you can before you move on to any other classes, any other lectures, any other scholars. Try to make the simple, basic method and master it. What's important is that you have to, the third basic principle is that you know the basics of the salah well. What is a rukn of the salah? What is a pillar of the salah? What is a wajib of the salah? What's only recommended? So if I leave off a rukn, then you know for sure the salah is invalid until you fulfill that missing rukn, that pillar. An example of a pillar of the salah is al-qiyamu ma'al-qudra. It's to stand as long as you have the ability to stand. So let's say you forgot and you sat down. Everybody understand this? Or you didn't make ruku', or you didn't come out of ruku'. Sami Allahu liman hamid, that you went to ruku'. You say Subhana Rabbi, you make the adhkar in ruku'. And you don't say Sami Allahu liman hamid. You go right into sujood. And then you remember that you missed out on that. You know that you have to fix that. And obviously, if you miss coming out of ruku', the ruku' is a part of a rak'ah. So you're eventually going to have to do an extra rak'ah, because that position can't just float in thin air. So what's important is that you have to know the arkan of the salah well. Then you have to know that which is mandatory, that which you have to do, but it isn't a rukn. It isn't mandatory. It isn't a pillar, something that the salah cannot stand without, but it is mandatory. Let's make an example of this. In a building, you have the foundation of the building, you have the wall, you have the column. It's mandatory. And then you have certain things inside the building that are a must, but it's not a part of the actual structure of the building. Sun is electricity. You got to have electricity. You got to have some type of heat source in the wintertime. You're going to freeze to death. A fire, heat, electric, whatever it is. But the electricity, the electric heater, the gas, the central heat is not a part of the what? Structure of the building. It's not a part of the structure of the building. Everybody understand this? So you could be in the building without the building actually collapsing down on you. But it's mandatory to have heat when it's cold outside. So you have to understand in the salah what's a wajib and what's a rukn. So I would advise is for a person to study those things. The arkan, the shurut, the wajibat, mustahabbat, and the makruhat, and last but not least, al-mubtilat. Number 1, ash-shurut, prerequisites. a prerequisite, a shart, a rukn, a pillar, and a wajib. All three of these things, they share one common thing. All three things share one common thing. What are the things that they share? Nah, they don't agree on that. They all are mandatory. They all have to be done. They all have to be done. You have to do the shart, prerequisite of salah. You have to do it. When you make the salah, you have a rukn, a pillar. You what? Have to do it. And the wajib, you also have to do it. So that's one thing that they share. However, these three things don't share something else. And that is, if you don't do it, then the salah is, that's a different story. If you don't face the qibla, that's a different story. You don't make wudu, different story. Everybody, you don't pray on time, that's what? Different story. You forgot, that's different. Everybody clear on this? So you have to understand the shart. What is a shart? Number two, what is a rukn? What is a pillar of the salah? Number three, what is wajib in the salah? But it's not a pillar, but it's wajib. Number four, what is recommended? Number five, what is disliked? Number six, what nullifies the prayer? Speech, turning away from the qibla, constant movement, and the list goes on. So once you get these things down packed, then you can start deciphering when and when not to make the sujood as-sahw. Okay? We already got past the simple way of before or after. Do whenever you can, as long as you do it. Everybody understand this in the basic rudimentary level. Then you have to understand the arkan well. You have to understand the wajibat well. You have to understand the shurut well. Everybody clear on this? Then once you lock that down, simply, then you move on to the next step. And you read when the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he did something extra, when did he make the taslim? When did he make the sujood? When he forgot, what did he tell the companion to do when he forgot? Everybody understand this? Wahakadha. So take basic steps and make a solid, concrete foundation. That's my piece of advice on that issue. Wallahu alam. You had a question?
Yeah, I picked up the sahud. This stuff is way, I'm not really such knowledge. I'm more of a simpler level, more of a physical level. I see Arabic as simple symbols, fleshy representations. It is a very great language because I see it as flesh, but it's...
So we say it's very simple as well with regards to sujood as-sahw or anything else. And that is for a person to learn the simple, basic steps under the tutelage of somebody with experience and knowledge. Under the tutelage, clear. Your question is clear. You have to.
I would actually ask you that. Well, I guess perhaps I have. Actually, you picked up on me, but may I elaborate?
What you have to do, inshallah, before we go further, once again, is that you must study under someone with two qualifications. I understand you do. May Allah bless you. I mean, number one, the person has to have experience. He has to have knowledge. Number three, the person must be trustworthy. Number two, which is very important, is that you have to go to your teacher, the one that's being your mentor, and free yourself of what you think you know. As we always say, do what? Empty your cup. You have to go to your teacher and basically say, I don't know anything. Teach me. I'm nothing. Help me be something. If I go to my teacher with something that I do know, or I think I know, or I read, or I heard, and I'm conflicting my views with your views, then it's going to be frustrating for the teacher. It's going to be something that you are going to get minimum benefit. So it's very important. In any aspect of Islam, you go to someone willing to learn. And that is the universal hadith disciple principle. And we say what? Fadli al-ka'sa. Say empty the cup. Sujood as-sahw or aqeedah, any issue of the deen. Wallahu alam.
So you think that a person would be available to teach me according to me? I mean, it is something like you were saying. I mean, it's something that I could overcome easily. I mean, but I don't really care to add these symbols into my mind. Why? I like to, bring that which exists outward into the light so that I may go into it and know myself greatly.
Inshallah.
And these symbols put into myself, it is...
Ameen. May Allah bless you.
The path would be just to memorize it orally. So can someone be provided to me so that I may just verbally, I may be a weakness, like you said, with these people that do not have good study habits, and the memorizations may not that great. However, I can increase, and I do work on myself, really. So, would it be good, would somebody be there that would teach me verbally these things, not written word? I think it's a quicker...
Clear. Inshallah. One of the brothers here in the masjid is a responsibility. I have a responsibility as a teacher. And the other brothers have responsibilities to help as well on a lower level. Bidnillahi ta'ala, inshallah. Next question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Would you, I saw in your hadith disciple we had a class about Prophet's prayer described, but it was just only one class and the rest of it I didn't find. So I was just wondering if you would start a class again from Prophet's prayer described from scratch, from the beginning.
Inshallah. Bidnillah. We'll try our best to to honor your request, inshallah ta'ala, soon. Bidnillah. Jazakallah khairan. Fadal.
AR from Toronto is asking, for a new Muslim sister with a Christian or atheist father, does he retain wilayah when it comes to marriage?
Questions regarding a new shahada, a new Muslim sister. Her father is an atheist. Does the father continue to be her wali? No. The wali has to be a Muslim. As Allah clearly states in the Quran al-Kareem, Surah An-Nisa, as that Allah would never make a sabil, a way for the kafirin over the mu'mineen. Allah will not make a way for the kafirin to be over the mu'mineen. So therefore, the scholars of Islam, they say, this ayah proves is that the wali has to have iman and cannot have kufr. As far as a sinful Muslim wali, that's a different story. But the wali between kufr and iman, they say no. So the moment she accepts Islam, and he remains upon kufr or atheism or whatever he's upon that's not iman, he cannot be her Islamic guardian, her legal guardian according to Canadian law. But if she gets married through the Islamic way, he cannot be her guardian. Then obviously he should be called to Islam. Obviously he should be instructed. He should be give dawah to him. The daughter should speak with him. And when and if the daughter, or if and when the daughter wants to get married, she should explain to her non-Muslim father. Tell him, I want you to be there. I want you to be in charge. But my religion comes before my blood. My religion comes before my blood. It's very important for us to understand this. Oftentimes, it's unfortunate, many new Muslims, they have a better understanding of this than those who've been Muslim their entire lives. That Islam comes before blood. And many Muslims who've been Muslim their whole lives, they think the opposite. Blood comes before Islam. My family comes before Allah and His Messenger. And that's sad and that's unfortunate. All right? There's no clash between the two. Islam is not meant to separate people. It's not meant to destroy families. But when it comes down to it, deen or father, deen or mother, you have to go with the deen. All right? And that's something that's easy for non-Muslims relatively to get. But in most cases, Muslims that have been Muslim their entire lives, they find it harder when it comes to the cultural pull. All right? So therefore, explain to the father, give him dawah, and teach him about the seriousness of kufr and iman. And when she wants to get married, the wali must be a Muslim. He must be a believer. As far as if the father says, I don't want to be a Muslim, and I don't mind if you get a guardian from the masjid, that's fine. The non-Muslim father should still be included in the marriage. He should come to the masjid or the center. He should not be pushed away and banished and disrespected, as long as he has the proper etiquettes. Okay? Only Allah knows, it may soften his heart. It may be a means of him accepting the religion. Let alone the fact that if things go bad, if she gets divorced, if she's berated, if she's mistreated by that Muslim brother, in most cases she's going to go back to that kafir father's house. So if he's totally clipped, thrown out of the way, get out of here, you're a kafir, you're a stinking kafir. You have nothing to do with my marriage. And then she gets married to a brother that she really doesn't know that well. Things don't work out. She gets a baby. She gets abused. She's back with a kafir father. How is that going to look? How's it going to make Islam look? How's it going to make the Muslims look? What type of relationship is she going to have with her father? But if she was done professionally, he may say, well, I think your religion is harsh. Your religion doesn't make sense. It's not right. Why can't I be the one that marry you off? He can say all of these things, but at least he can never say that I was disrespected. That my daughter disrespected me. She may have disrespected me by marrying through somebody that I didn't choose of, but at least done with respect, with adab. Everybody understand this? Wallahu alam. Fadl. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
You mentioned earlier, you said something that I found really interesting. You said one foot in the dunya and 1 foot in the deen. And it was just a statement that I heard you say. And if you, let's just say you find yourself in this predicament, what's the best way to try to achieve istiqamah?
Clear.
Try to fight, try to
Clear.
fight yourself.
With regards to 1 foot in the deen, 1 foot in the dunya, what's the best way to achieve istiqamah, so on and so forth. First and foremost, we say that statement, 1 foot in the deen, 1 foot in the dunya, is not absolutely wrong. And having 1 foot, quote unquote, in the deen and 1 foot in the dunya is not absolutely bad. Stay with me now. Be patient. There are different types. The first type is when we talk about students of knowledge. And what I mean initially is 1 foot in studying College of Hadith, Imam al-Bukhari, Imam Ahmad, Fulan, Ibn Hajar, and another foot business, real estate, buying, selling, this beautiful sister from my country, this brother's giving me his young virgin daughter, and I have a second wife, and this one and that one, and so on and so on and so forth. So getting married to a beautiful girl, to a young virgin wife, is that haram? No, it's not disliked. Buying and selling isn't haram. Having real estate, making money is not haram. So, but in this instance, with regards to him studying and memorizing this book and devoting himself to hadith, is what? It's a seed for disaster. It's a seed for what? Disaster. And the only thing that has to be on your mind when you're trying to achieve something in studies, let alone hadith, is what? It's hadith. You can't be thinking about who you getting married to, who you're not getting married to. The second wife, third wife, sit down, this sister, how pretty she is. You can't be thinking about that. You can't be thinking about making money. Many brothers, they say this: I have a business venture. I want to make money. I want to deal with real estate. I want to go to school and college. I want to do a surgery. And you're wasting your time. Period. If you do not devote yourself and focus on what? One thing. And knowledge, let alone the knowledge of what? Hadith, which is a long, hard, tough road. It is not sweet. It is not easy. And anyone who says that it's easy and it's sweet and it's simple is lying to you. It takes pain and suffering and sacrifice if you want to achieve, if you want to excel, if you want to go far. You want to get your feet a little wet? Tayyib, that's a couple classes here. That's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to actually be a hadith disciple, somebody that's a disciple of the sunnah, a memorizer, someone that Allah uses to spread knowledge, to raise the flag of the sunnah, it takes sacrifice. So those brothers, 1 foot in the deen, quote unquote, 1 foot in the dunya, that's not haram, the other foot, but it's not for hadith. Now that's one scenario. Another scenario is a brother who's studying or trying to learn hadith, 1 foot in hadith, another foot in the dunya, meaning the actual haram stuff, actual dislike stuff, actual things that are displeasing to Allah ar-Rahman. Obviously, that's included in your question. Last but not least is in America, Canada, the UK, London, okay, Birmingham, all right, wherever you go, Manchester in the UK, in which a brother is not a student of knowledge, a sister is not a student of knowledge, but they're just a 9-to-5 Muslim that's trying to be religious. A brother is growing his beard. Sister is wearing the niqab. They're trying to be religious, trying to learn and practice the sunnah. But they have another foot still in the dunya. Not in buying and selling, not in getting married. No. Smoking weed or tattoos or Facebook, girlfriends, boyfriends, or what I used to do. I used to be a rapper and a singer and a punk rock band and this and that and keva. Then that's a problem. Because now your heart is being pulled from two sides. And Allah told us in the Quran Kareem that He only made for man how many hearts in his chest? One. Just one. There's no two hearts in one's chest, in one's insides. So therefore, that's a serious problem now. So the first step in winning this battle is to realize that it is a battle and to realize that it is a problem. And there are many of us who we live in a delusional world. A delusional world. And we don't even realize that we're in the middle of a battle. We don't even realize it. And that we're losing every day. It's casualties every hour when I open my phone, when I press the remote control, when I walk to this place, when I pick up this cup, when I smoke this, when I insert this, when I sniff this, when I touch this, when I smell that. We don't even realize that that's a major casualty. Somebody's being killed. Troops are being killed. Every time you do that thing, that's from the dunya. This is reality. So the first step is to realize that it is a problem, and to realize is that you as a Muslim, by nature, by default, you're supposed to be a mujahid. You're supposed to be a warrior. By nature. Every Muslim has to be a warrior. Physically, spiritually, or both. And the moment you say that I'm not a warrior and I'm peaceful, that's when the shaitan is going to attack you and he's going to devour you. The moment you let down your guard. The Muslim, his lifeblood is jihad fi sabilillah. On one level or another. On one level or another. So you have to realize that it's a state of war between you and shaitan. It's a state of war between you and your own nafs. It's a state of war between you and between hawa, lust and desires. Student of knowledge has to realize it's a state of war between himself and sleep, between himself and women. Not saying that women are evil, women are bad, but just the concept of taking away from knowledge. Everybody understand this? This is reality. So if you got that, you're a step closer to winning. And if you have no clue, you have no chance of winning. Number two is you have to realize that Islam is a practical religion. It's made to be practiced. And the concept of practice is that you try. You make effort. You take a step. You have to rehearse. You have to do the moves over and over again until they become what? Instinctive. Train your mind. Salah. Don't go to sleep no matter how tired you are until you make a fresh wudu, brush your teeth, and make at least one rak'ah. Do it every day. If you had a good day, a bad day, stressed, I made sin, I was with my girlfriend, I'm junub, I'm in a state of janaba, I made zina, waliyadu billah. Make a shower and make at least a rak'ah every night. Train yourself step by step. And then perhaps you may have more time and you had a good day and you weren't doing a haram, now you're going to make 3 rak'ah. And then you start making 5. You start practicing. You're stressed out. Half of me is still in the streets, still in the dunya. All right, sit down and read a book for 10 minutes. Open up the Mus'haf al-Sharif, practice. Go over, make a review of Juz Amma that you memorized years ago. It may be difficult in the beginning, but take a step, rehearse it until it becomes second nature, clockwork. So Islam is based off of practice. Everybody understand this? It's not just off of theory, but it's based off of what? Practice. All right? So that's the most important step here. Thirdly is you to realize is that there were people who came before you that had these type of difficulties and struggles. And one way or another, they overcame them. As a wise man once said, there's no such thing as an extraordinary man, but there's a basic man in an extraordinary situation. Men had blood like you, slept like you, walked and talked like you. But Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tested them. And one way or another, they stood up to that test. So there were people who came before you that were closer to Allah and went through struggles. There are people who came before you that went through all of the things that may be happening in your life or can happen in your life. So you have to read about those men and those women, read about their lives. And that's the whole concept of seerah. That's the concept of reading about the Salaf al-Salih, the pious, righteous predecessors. They were locked up. Some of them were beat. Some of them were killed. Some lost their families, no money, depression, and the list goes on. Some of them were not Muslims. So anything that can happen to you, it already happened. Let alone outside of the Islamic world. You start reading about different people's struggles. This person, he wrote a book about his drug addiction, about his alcohol addiction, how she overcame domestic abuse. You read about this stuff. There's life lessons in these things. Most importantly is for you to know and for you to realize is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves tawbah. And He loves those who make tawbah. Allah loves those who make istighfar. He loves them. And every time you repent, you become closer to Allah and Allah loves you. So if you fall down, get back up. If you make a mistake, practice on doing it the right way. Again, if you forget, the moment you remember, move forward. Do not focus on the past. Do not let shaitan to play with your head and play with your thoughts. Continue to move forward, even if you make a mistake over and over again, keep trying. And that goes back to what we said about the warrior, person who doesn't know how to surrender and how to submit. All right, understand this? That fighting spirit. You have to fight your nafs all of the time. But practically fight it, step by step, piece by piece. You make small steps until you can jump, until you can leap. Bidnillahi ta'ala. Once you make those steps on a consistent basis, no doubt Allah is going to make it easy for you. And the thing that you never thought you'd be able to leave alone, Allah will allow it just like that. Everybody understand this? When Allah wants something, He says what? Be, and then it is, just like that. But you have to make an effort. Never forget that when you take a step to Allah, how fast, how many steps does Allah come towards the slave? That's what the shaitan wants you to forget about. Wallahu a'lam. Barakallahu fikum. Inshallah, we'll stop here tonight. If there are any other questions, we'll try to take them in another majlis. Forgive us if we didn't have time to answer your question. I don't know if there are questions online. How many are there online? Couple. Tight. Khair, inshallah. Those that don't get their questions answered tonight, inshallah, you can email them to hadithdisciple.com or wait until the next time in which we have the open Q&A session. Bidnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan. Our apologies in advance.
The schedule for the classes?
Next class will be Tuesday after Salat al-Maghrib.
Tuesdays and Saturdays?
No, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The normal class schedule is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Obviously, there are variables, traveling, different people, so on and so forth. But that's the normal schedule. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Saturday night.
Here?
Yes.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday?
Yes. And Masjid Taqwa is either on Friday night or Saturday night. That is the difference. So you got to be on the website for the updates, inshallah. Wallahu alam.
We have